Most people believe scams only happen to someone else. A neighbor, a stranger, a headline in the newspaper. That belief feels logical. But John, you and I know it isn't true. The truth is, scams find their way into ordinary lives every single day, and the newest one spreading right now doesn't come with a phone call or a suspicious email. It comes from something most of us do without a second thought: tapping a debit card. This trick has been given a name that almost sounds made up: the ghost. It's fast, it's silent, and it's dangerous. With one intercepted tap, a scammer can drain money straight from your account. And because it's your debit card, it isn't just credit points or a temporary charge. It's your grocery money, your prescription money, the money you count on to live your life. For many older adults, that's more than a nuisance. It's a threat to financial independence and dignity. When I first heard about this, I thought, that can't be real. That sounds like something from a movie. But it is real, and it's spreading quickly. And that's why I wanted us to have this conversation today. Because if we can shine a light on how it works and what to look for, we can keep people safe. Now, before anyone listening starts to feel fearful, I want you to hear this. There are simple, practical steps you can take to protect yourself. That's the hopeful part. Knowledge is defense. The scam only works when you don't know it exists. By the end of this episode, you'll know exactly what to do if you ever come face to face with a ghost tap situation. With me today is someone who has dedicated his life to fighting fraud, scams, and protecting families. Retired Detective John Harris spent decades on the front lines, tracking down the very people who invent schemes like this. And now, in his retirement, he shares that wisdom with communities like ours. John, it's a privilege to have you with us again.
Thank you, Nancy. It's good to be here, especially for a topic like this. People need to know how these scams work, so they don't get caught off guard. And you're right, it isn't about fear, it's about being prepared.
And before we dive in, I'd love to hear from everyone listening. Have you or someone you love ever spotted a charge on your bank statement that just didn't feel right? Maybe it was a small amount, maybe something you never bought. Share your story in the comments. You might be surprised how many of us have been there, and your experience could be the warning sign that helps a neighbor tomorrow. John, let's begin at the beginning, because I want to make sure everyone listening really understands what we're dealing with. Most of us are in the habit of tapping our debit cards without a second thought. We hear the beep, we see the receipt, and we walk away. But you've been warning me about something called the ghost tap, and I'll admit, the name alone sounds eerie. For our listeners, can you explain in plain terms what is a ghost tap, and why does it matter?
Absolutely, Nancy. Imagine you're at the grocery store, you've picked up your essentials, you get to the register, and you tap your debit card. Everything seems normal. But what you don't realize is that nearby, someone may be carrying a small hidden device. That device can capture the wireless signal your card sends when it taps the machine. The criminal doesn't take your card, they don't know your PIN, and they don't even need to touch you. They just copy that signal. Later, they replay it and use it like a duplicate tap, spending money right out of your checking account. That's why it's called a ghost tap. It's like a shadow of your real payment being used against you.
That gives me chills, because there's no warning, no sign that anything's wrong. You walk away with your card still in your hand, but your money is already slipping away. For people who are older, who may be on a fixed income, that's not just an inconvenience. That's a rent payment. That's prescription money. That's food on the table. It hits right at the heart of security and independence.
You're exactly right. And one of the most dangerous parts of this scam is that unlike the old skimming devices people used to worry about at ATMs, there's no bulky attachment, no fake keypad you can spot. Ghost Tap leaves nothing behind. It's invisible, which is why criminals love it. And with debit cards, the money comes directly out of your account. Yes, banks can eventually reimburse you for fraud, but it often takes time. In the meantime, your bills may bounce, or you may find yourself scrambling. That stress alone can be devastating.
John, a lot of people listening might be thinking, wait a second, I thought tap to pay was supposed to be safer than swiping. We've been told to use the chip or to tap instead of swiping, because it adds security. How did something that was supposed to make us safer turn into a doorway for scams?
That's a great question. And the truth is, the technology itself is still secure in many ways. The problem isn't with the chip on your card, it's with the way the signal can be intercepted. Think of it like a conversation. You and the cashier are supposed to be the only ones talking, but if someone else is close enough, they can eavesdrop and repeat what you said. That's what these criminals are doing. They're eavesdropping on the tap and replaying it. The system was built to make life easier, but criminals are always adapting, looking for the cracks they can slip through.
So what you're saying is, it's not that tapping is bad, it's that we need to be aware of what's happening around us. That feels like an important distinction. It's not about being scared of technology. It's about learning how to use it wisely. What should someone listening today be thinking about the next time they tap their card?
The first thing is to slow down. Take a second before you tap. Look at the machine. Does it look like it belongs, or does it look like something has been stuck on top of it? Look at the people around you. Is someone standing unusually close, holding a phone or bag at just the right angle to capture your signal? Scammers rely on us being rushed and distracted. If you slow down, you're already harder to target. The second habit is to monitor your account regularly. Don't wait for a monthly statement. Check daily if you can. That way, if something slips through, you'll catch it quickly before the damage grows. And finally, don't ignore small charges. Criminals often start with a tiny amount, maybe $5 or $10, to see if it goes unnoticed. If you see something you don't recognize, report it immediately.
I love that you said slowing down, because that's something we can all do. It doesn't require a new gadget. It doesn't require learning a complicated system. It's just being present and aware in the moment. And checking daily, that's such a good reminder. For those listening, maybe it's adding one extra step to your morning routine. Just like you might check the weather before going out, you can check your balance before the day starts. That's a small habit that could save you so much heartache.
Exactly. And the important thing to remember is, this isn't about fear, it's about awareness and control. Ghost Tap is clever, but it isn't unbeatable. By paying attention to your surroundings, monitoring your account, and acting quickly when something feels off, you can stay ahead of it. That's the message I want people to walk away with: confidence, not fear.
And I want to pause here and ask everyone listening, have you ever spotted a charge on your bank statement that didn't make sense? Maybe it was small, maybe it was big, but it left you uneasy. What did you do? Did you call the bank right away, or did you wait to see what happened? Share your story in the comments. Your experience could be the very thing that helps a neighbor recognize the warning signs sooner.
That's a good point, Nancy. One tactic criminals use is to start with small charges, testing the waters. They'll put through a $5 or $10 purchase. If it goes unnoticed, they'll escalate to bigger ones. That's why those little unexplained charges should never be ignored. They're like the first knock on the door before someone barges in. By checking your accounts often, daily if you can, you'll spot those small red flags early.
John, I'd like you to paint a picture for us. Suppose I'm standing in line at the pharmacy. I tap my card, get my receipt, and walk out. Behind me in line is someone with one of these devices. What do they actually do in that moment? How close do they have to be? And would I even notice?
That's a great scenario. Here's how it usually works. The criminal carries a portable device about the size of a smartphone or a small tablet. It can be hidden in a shopping bag, inside a jacket pocket, or disguised as a normal gadget. When you tap your card's chip sends out a radio signal, near-field communication, or NFC. That signal is supposed to go to the store's reader, but the criminal's device can pick it up too if they're within a few inches. In a crowded checkout line, that distance is easy to cover. You wouldn't feel a thing. You wouldn't hear a beep or see an alert. To you, everything looks normal, but to them, they've just captured your tap.
So it's like a shadow transaction, an echo of what I just did, except in the wrong hands. That's chilling. And I imagine for someone who already feels vulnerable, maybe they don't use online banking, maybe they don't check their account often, that shadow could go unnoticed for a long time, and that feels doable. It's not about learning complicated technology, it's about building a rhythm. Just like you might check the weather before going outside, you check your balance before starting the day. That's a habit that can save you.
Absolutely. And let me add this, if you ever do spot something unusual, don't delay. Call your bank right away. Too many people wait, hoping it will fix itself or assuming it's a mistake that will go away. Criminals count on that hesitation. The faster you act, the less damage they can do.
And that feels doable. It's not about learning complicated technology. It's about building a rhythm. Just like you might check the weather before going outside, you check your balance before starting the day. That's a habit that can save you. That's such an important reminder. Friends, I know it can feel uncomfortable to call and question a charge, but your money is your lifeline. You're not being a bother, you're being responsible. And your story might even help your bank spot a pattern that saves other people too.
Nancy, one of the clearest examples I've seen was just a few months ago. A 72-year-old woman went into her local pharmacy. She tapped her debit card like she had done hundreds of times before. Nothing seemed unusual. She left with her medicine, her bag, and her receipt. Later that day, her bank account showed 2 identical charges for expensive restaurant meals. She had never been to those restaurants. By the time her bank flagged the activity, $300 had already been spent.
That's heartbreaking. For someone living on a fixed income, $300 is not just a number on a screen. That is groceries, that is medication, that is the gas to get to appointments. It is so upsetting because this isn't money for luxury. This is money people rely on to live day to day.
Exactly. And the cruel part is that she had no idea until her granddaughter happened to check the online statement with her. The receipt in her bag looked normal. The payment in the store went through like any other day. But the fraudster had already taken her tap information and spent it 5 states away. By the time she even realized something was wrong, the money was gone.
Stories like that can shake your trust in everyday life. You start to wonder, can I use my card anywhere? Do I have to second-guess every single tap? For many older adults who already feel the world moving faster than they can keep up, this can make them feel even more vulnerable.
You are right, and it is not just pharmacies or grocery stores. I worked with a gentleman who was in his late 60s. He tapped his card at a self-checkout in a big box store. Later that evening, his account showed charges for electronics in another city. He had never left town. Someone nearby had intercepted the signal. Within hours, hundreds of dollars were gone. When he called his bank, they assured him the money would eventually be reimbursed, but it could take up to 2 weeks. Meanwhile, he had bills due the next morning. That kind of gap can cause real damage.
I can imagine the stress of that. Waiting, wondering, trying to figure out which bills to delay, all while feeling like you did nothing wrong. It must feel so unfair, because people are told to tap to pay for safety and convenience. Then suddenly that very habit is turned against them.
That is exactly the emotional harm I see. It is not only about the money, though that part is serious. It is also about the sense of security. Once you have been hit by something like this, you start to question everything. I had one woman tell me she was afraid to even go shopping alone after her account was compromised. She felt like the world was full of hidden traps.
And that is what makes these stories so important. Because someone listening right now might feel exactly that way and think they are the only one. They are not. This is happening to people across the country. Friends, I want to pause for a moment here and invite you to share with us. Have you ever received a charge that didn't look right? Maybe it was small, maybe it was large. What did you do? Did you call the bank, or did you hope it would disappear? Tell us in the comments, because your story could help someone else recognize the signs sooner.
That is such a good point, Nancy. Many people ignore small charges, and that is often the beginning of something larger. Criminals will test a card by running through a $5 or $10 purchase. If the account holder doesn't notice or doesn't report it, then they know they can move on to the bigger amounts. By the time the victim sees the large withdrawal, the fraudster has already taken as much as they could.
So even a little unexplained charge should be taken seriously. That can be hard, because sometimes we forget small purchases or maybe a family member used the card. But I hear you saying, don't brush it off. Investigate it.
That is such a good point, Nancy. Many people ignore small charges, and that is often the beginning of something larger. Criminals will test a card by running through a $5 or $10 purchase. If the account holder doesn't notice or doesn't report it, then they know they can move on to the bigger amounts. By the time the victim sees the large withdrawal, the fraudster has already taken as much as they could. Exactly. If you see something you do not recognize, even if it is small, call your bank right away. It is always better to ask and be told it was legitimate than to ignore it and let a thief drain your account. I tell people that small charge is like a knock at the door. If you do not answer it, the thief will come right in.
That image is powerful. It reminds us that our accounts are like our homes. We lock our doors, we peek through the window when someone knocks, we keep an eye on who is coming up the driveway. But with our money, sometimes we are less cautious. We trust that the systems are protecting us, when in reality we have to be part of that protection.
And that is where habits come in. I met another senior, a retired teacher, who had her card compromised at a gas station pump. She thought everything looked fine. But later, multiple transactions appeared from stores she had never been to. The only reason she caught it quickly was because she checked her balance every morning with her coffee. She was able to call the bank immediately, freeze her card, and stop the thief before more damage was done. That one daily habit saved her from losing hundreds more.
That is encouraging, because it shows we are not powerless. We may not be able to stop criminals from trying, but we can stop them from succeeding if we build small protections into our routines.
That is the truth, and these real cases highlight the pattern. It often starts in ordinary places we all trust: pharmacies, grocery stores, gas stations, big box stores. That is why awareness is so important. Once you know this can happen anywhere, you begin to watch for signs, you slow down before tapping, and you double-check afterward.
John, let me ask this. For the people who have gone through this, what do you tell them when they say, "I don't want to use my card anymore"? Some may feel tempted to go back to carrying cash only, or avoiding tap altogether.
I understand that reaction, and in some ways it makes sense. But cash has its risks too. It can be stolen, it can be lost, and there is no reimbursement if that happens. My advice is not to abandon cards completely, but to use them wisely. That means choosing where you tap, paying attention to your environment, and checking your statements often. Debit cards can still be used, but I encourage seniors especially to consider using a credit card for daily purchases when possible. Credit cards often have stronger fraud protection, and the money does not come directly out of your checking account. That gives you more breathing room if something goes wrong.
So it is not about giving up the convenience of cards. It is about making smart choices. That feels like an important takeaway. We cannot hide from the world, but we can walk into it prepared.
Exactly. Scams like Ghost Tap thrive when people are unaware and unprepared. But when you know the signs, when you have habits in place, the criminals lose their power. These stories we have shared are serious, but they also carry hope, because each one teaches us what to watch for and how to respond.
And that is what we are here to do. Turn fear into knowledge, and knowledge into protection.
Nancy, to really understand how Ghost Tap works, we need to take a look at the technology behind it. The system your card uses when you tap is called Near-Field Communication, or NFC. It is designed to be simple. You hold your card near the reader, the chip sends out a wireless signal, and the transaction goes through. Most people never give it another thought, but that wireless signal can also be picked up by another device if someone places it close enough.
So when I'm tapping my card, I'm picturing the information going directly into the machine in front of me, but you're saying it is also floating out in a way that can be caught by someone else nearby.
Exactly. Think of it like having a quiet conversation with the cashier. You intend your words to be heard only by that person, but if someone else is standing a little too close, they can overhear. Ghost tap devices are like professional eavesdroppers. They pick up the same information the register is supposed to receive, and once the criminal has it, they can use it to create what is essentially a replay of your payment.
That makes me think about how trusting we are of places we go every week. Pharmacies, grocery stores, parking meters, even those little kiosks where you buy a bus ticket. They all look so ordinary, But are you saying those very places could hide danger without us realizing?
That is the difficult part. These devices can be slipped into places that look completely normal. A fake price scanner at the end of an aisle, a parking meter that has been tampered with, even a sticker with a small reader hidden behind it. The criminal does not need to touch you or take your card. They just need to be close enough to capture the signal. In a crowded checkout line, that is easy. Some of the devices are so advanced they can capture multiple taps in a matter of seconds if several people are standing nearby.
So it happens silently and invisibly. No alarms, no strange sound, nothing to tell us something is wrong. That is the part that feels so unnerving. People like to think they would sense when danger is near, but here it is practically invisible.
You are right, and that invisibility is why it spreads so effectively. Most victims never know when or where it happened. They just see the result later on a bank statement. That is why building habits is so important. You cannot always see the danger, but you can protect yourself by acting as if it might be there.
What kind of habits are we talking about? For someone listening who might be thinking this sounds overwhelming, what are the practical steps that keep this manageable without making people live in constant fear?
The first habit is to pause before you tap. Take 1 second to look around. Does the reader look like it belongs, or does it seem off, like something has been added on? Does the screen look authentic, or does it look like a cover is sitting on top of it? That pause allows you to notice details you might otherwise miss. The second habit is to think about where you tap. Using a card saved in your grocer's secure app, for example, is safer than tapping at a random kiosk you have never used before. And the third is to monitor your account regularly. Not once a month, not every now and then, but daily if possible. That way you catch anything suspicious before it grows into something serious.
I like the way you frame it. It is not paranoia, it is just small checks built into the routine, almost like fastening a seatbelt. You do not expect to crash every time you drive, but you wear it because it makes sense to protect yourself.
That is a perfect comparison. Most people will tap their cards thousands of times without an issue. But on the day something does go wrong, the habits you have in place will make all the difference. Checking the screen, checking your balance, calling your bank right away if something looks off. These are simple but powerful steps.
John, you've explained the mechanics so clearly, but I want to ask this for people who may feel embarrassed. If someone does get caught by a ghost tap, is it their fault?
Not at all. And this is very important. These scams work because they are invisible. Falling victim is not a sign that you are careless or naive. It is a sign that criminals are inventive. The only mistake is ignoring the problem once you notice it. If you respond quickly, you limit the damage. If you delay, that is when they get the upper hand.
Friends, that is such an important message. If you have ever looked at a statement and seen a strange charge, and maybe you wondered if it was your own mistake, I want to encourage you. Do not ignore it. Ask questions, reach out to your bank, and tell us in the comments too. Have you ever seen something suspicious on your account and wondered if it was fraud? Sharing your experience may give someone else the courage to act faster.
That engagement is valuable. When people speak up, others realize they are not alone. Scammers want us to feel isolated and embarrassed because that keeps us quiet. But when we talk about it, we shine light on their tactics.
So to sum this up, Ghost Tap operates through a wireless signal. It can hide in ordinary places, and it moves with a speed most of us would never suspect. But even though it is silent and invisible, we are not powerless. By slowing down, checking our surroundings, and monitoring daily, we take control back.
Exactly. The scam itself may feel like a ghost, but your awareness makes it visible. And once you see it for what it is, you are already safer than most. Nancy, now that we've explained how Ghost Tap works, I think it's important for listeners to understand that it doesn't always look the same. There are several variations of this scam, and each one is designed to blend into everyday life, so you don't notice until it's too late.
That makes sense because people might picture one situation and think, as long as I avoid that, I'll be safe. But you're saying there are multiple ways these criminals operate. Could you walk us through some of the most common ones?
Certainly. The first tactic I see often is the in-store hidden skimmer. These are small devices criminals attach to checkout machines. They're sometimes disguised as promotional scanners, price checkers, or even donation boxes. They look helpful, but in reality they're stealing your card information. You could be in your trusted neighborhood store, not realizing that something has been tampered with.
So even in familiar places, the danger can be present without anyone realizing. That's unsettling, because many of us feel a false sense of safety in places we visit every week.
Exactly. The second tactic involves portable scanner devices. This is when a criminal carries a reader about the size of a phone or small tablet. They'll stand close to you in line, pretending to wait their turn or fumble in their bag, but in reality they're capturing your tap signal. In a crowded environment, no one notices, and by the time you walk out the door, they already have what they need.
That's sneaky. I can imagine being in line at the grocery store with people pressed close behind me. I'd never think twice about someone standing near me with a bag.
And that is exactly why it works. The third variation is disguised public use terminals. Think of machines you use for donations, ticket sales, or self-check kiosks. Criminals will install a reader inside the machine or create a fake overlay that looks legitimate. You believe you're using a regular terminal, but it's been rigged to copy your information.
And that's frightening because those machines often pop up in places where you're not expecting to be cautious. A train station, a fair, even a fundraising table.
The last one I'll mention is a hybrid scam involving mail interception. In some cases, criminals intercept your card when it's sent in the mail, clone the tap function, and then send it along so you don't know it was ever touched. By the time you start using it, they already have the information saved and ready to use.
Those are clever and so sneaky. It's enough to make someone wonder if they should ever trust a terminal again.
It is concerning, but again, the key is awareness. Once you know these tactics exist, you start to notice details you might have ignored before. A machine that looks slightly out of place, a stranger who stands unusually close, a kiosk that doesn't match the style of others in the same area. Those small observations can protect you.
Friends, now that we've heard how these scams come in so many disguises, I want to invite you to join the conversation. Have you ever seen something odd at a self-checkout or a kiosk? Maybe a sticker covering the screen, or someone who seemed too eager to help you use a machine. It could have been harmless, but it could also have been something more. Share your stories in the comments. When you do, you might help others spot patterns in their own communities.
That is an excellent point, Nancy. Sharing our experiences shines a light on tactics criminals would rather keep in the shadows. And let me add a few extra protective steps. Set up transaction alerts with your bank so you get notified immediately when a purchase goes through. Carry a backup form of payment, ideally a credit card with strong fraud protection so you are not left stranded if your debit card is compromised. And most importantly, if something feels off, act quickly. Freeze your card, call your bank, and don't wait.
That feels empowering. Instead of walking through life afraid, we can walk through life aware. And awareness is what breaks the power of these scams. John, I want to talk for a moment about the emotional side of this. Because when someone hears these stories, they may think, if this happened to me, it would mean I wasn't careful enough. It's easy to feel singled out, almost ashamed, as if you've done something wrong.
Nancy, I hear that often. People say, I should have known or I must have been careless. But that isn't true. These scams are designed to be invisible. They're built to fool even the most cautious person. Falling victim doesn't mean you failed. It means criminals are getting more creative. The only thing that matters is how you respond once you realize something is wrong.
That's reassuring because I think many seniors carry the added weight of already feeling judged. They worry people will think they're forgetful or too trusting. But what you're saying is this isn't about forgetfulness or weakness. It's about technology moving faster than most of us can keep up with.
Exactly. And when you understand that, you can let go of the shame. Instead of beating yourself up, you take back control. You put calm, steady habits in place. You check your balance each day. You pause before you tap. You ask questions if a charge doesn't look right. That puts you back in the driver's seat.
And control is so closely tied to independence. For many older adults, being able to handle their own finances is a huge part of staying independent. Losing that confidence can feel like losing a piece of yourself.
That's why I always emphasize that this is not about fear-mongering. This is about empowerment. Awareness and preparation do not shrink your life. They expand it. You can go out and shop and travel and live your life knowing you have tools in place.
Friends, if you've ever felt that sense of shame, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not alone, and you are not to blame. Scammers are slick. They rely on our good faith and our routines. And once you know their tricks, you are already one step ahead. Tell us in the comments if you've ever had a moment where you felt that way, where you second-guessed yourself after noticing something wrong. Your openness might be exactly what helps someone else move from fear to confidence.
And remember, Nancy, the goal is not perfection. No one can control everything. The goal is to make yourself a harder target, to build habits that catch problems quickly, and to have the confidence to act when you need to. When you do that, you are already taking power back from the criminals.
That message is so important, because at the end of the day, what we are really protecting is not just money. We're protecting peace of mind. We're protecting independence. We're protecting the ability to live with dignity and without constant worry.
That is exactly right. And with steady awareness, that peace of mind is possible. Nancy, we've covered a lot today. We've talked about how Ghost Tap works, where it shows up, the variations criminals use, and the emotional toll it can take. Let's take a moment to pull it all together so listeners leave with a clear sense of what to do. At its core, Ghost Tap is a scam that uses near-field communication, or NFC, to steal the signal your card sends when you tap. It is stealthy and silent, which is why it's so effective. You can walk away from a store believing you've paid normally, and yet hours later money disappears from your account because someone intercepted that tap. The first takeaway is simply to understand that Ghost Tap exists and to recognize that it could happen anywhere. Awareness is always the first defense. The second point is about paying attention to the machines and the spaces you use. Ghost Tap relies on blending into your daily routines. That could be a checkout counter at a store, a parking meter, or even a donation kiosk. Criminals are hoping you'll rush through without noticing that something looks off. By pausing for a second and really looking, you give yourself the chance to see details you'd otherwise miss. The third takeaway is about practicing smart card use. Tap only when you feel confident the environment is secure. Avoid tapping on random machines you've never seen before, especially if they look temporary or out of place. Instead, if you can, use more secure options such as paying through your grocer's official app or using a card saved to a digital wallet with added protection. And always keep in mind that your debit card is directly tied to your checking account. That makes it more vulnerable. A credit card, by contrast, often provides stronger fraud protection and gives you more time to dispute charges without draining your everyday funds. The fourth is to monitor your accounts daily. Do not wait until the end of the month to look at your statement. Scammers count on that delay. They know that the longer it takes you to notice, the more money they can take. By glancing at your balance once a day, you give yourself a chance to catch problems while they're small. Many banks even offer text or email alerts every time your card is used. That kind of tool can be a powerful early warning system. And the final key point is to act immediately if something feels wrong. If you notice a suspicious charge, do not wait, do not assume it will resolve itself. Call your bank right away, freeze your card if you need to, and take control before the thief takes more. Criminals succeed because people hesitate. The faster you respond, the less damage they can do.
That's such a clear list of steps, John. What I love is that none of these things require advanced technology or complicated systems. They're simple actions that become habits. Pause before you tap. Use trusted methods. Check your accounts daily. And act fast if something feels off. These steps work, and they can become second nature once you start practicing them.
Exactly. And I want listeners to hear this too. Awareness isn't fear, it's protection. This is not about living in paranoia, it's about taking back control. When you spot the signs, you stop the scam.
Friends, that's a powerful truth. And before we wrap up, I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a suspicious charge or even a ghost tap style situation? Maybe it was a small purchase you didn't recognize. Maybe it was something larger that shook your confidence. Sharing your story in the comments could be the very thing that helps a neighbor tomorrow. We read every single one, and you never know who you might be helping by speaking up.
That kind of sharing builds community. Criminals thrive in silence, but awareness spreads when we talk to each other.
So to close, let's remember what we've learnt today. Ghost tap may feel like a ghost, but it loses its power when we shine light on it. We've walked through what it is, where it hides, the variations it takes, and most importantly, the steps that protect us. Pause, check, monitor, act. Those are the anchors that will keep you steady. We have walked together through the hidden world of ghost tap scams today. We started with what they are, how they work, and why they are so dangerous. We saw the different disguises they can take, from hidden skimmers to portable devices, and we heard the stories of real people who had their independence shaken by something they never saw coming. But most importantly, we learnt that awareness brings protection.
That is right, Nancy. Ghost tap may be new, but it is not unstoppable. The steps we've shared are simple and powerful. Pause before you tap. Pay attention to what looks out of place. Use safer payment options when you can. Check your accounts every day and act quickly if something feels wrong. These habits turn the tables. They make you harder to target and quicker to respond.
And friends, I want to encourage you. This is not about living in fear. It is about living prepared. When you understand the tricks, you stop being vulnerable and start being empowered. Awareness gives you choices, and choices give you confidence.
Exactly. Protection comes from steady awareness, not panic. The more people know about ghost tap, the less effective it becomes.
So here is your clear action step. This week, take 5 minutes to review your last couple of days of bank transactions. Just a quick check. If something looks odd, don't ignore it. Call your bank and show it to someone you trust. Those small moments of attention are what keep you safe. And now, I want to hear from you. Have you seen something like this in your own life? A strange charge, a suspicious machine, or even just a situation that didn't feel right? Share it in the comments. Your story could be the warning that protects a neighbor tomorrow. I'm Nancy Miller, reminding you to stay calm, stay confident, and remember this simple truth: when you spot the signs, you stop the scam.